The 1960s, and in a farmer's field on the Yorkshire-Lancashire border near Keighley, the death throws are being played out in a sport which has been part of the region's heritage for decades. Knur and Spell, a test of who could hit a tiny ball the farthest, was the source of many sporting wars of the roses. But by the end of the decade, few more games would ever be played here. Among the contenders, Eric Hesseltine, seen here blowing his whistle to get things underway.
Well, it was for those that could hit the Knur the farthest. It was like called poor man's golf in a way. An half-ounce Knur, a white one, made out of clay. And of course, so the heads were a stick. You could have it from 3'6" to 4 foot. The wind came into it a lot. If the wind, you tipped with the wind. They called it tipping, you know. You tip with the wind, then you got a lot of help, you see, off that. You know, if it was a calm day, they used to call it a balmy day, you know, they wouldn't be knocking as far.
When match is on, 6 on 'em take it turns to strike. First one goes when this whistle blows. Then everybody watches where Knur's going. And a couple on 'em, who all stand up back at striker, rush out when he's belted Knur and shout to seekers at bottom of hill, telling them where it's going. It's down bit gate oil, or it's over bit bog oil. That's a right sloppy corner at field.
It was a problem, it couldn't be. Hitting the Knur, you know, if you miss it, you'd have 10, what they call 10 rises, which meant 10 knocks. And you could have 10 knocks and never hit one, if you weren't positioned properly. You'd have your feet in the right place. And once you got positioned properly, when you practiced, you took a band and some pegs and you took them to where you stood, and they call it, and then you knew just where to stand every time you played.
Best shots are when they hits Knur fair and square in middle of spell eared. After a shot or two, some on 'em fix a new eard on to spell. They'll light a fire and whip new eard on with thin band and cobbler's wax. And when it's all over, referee gets a long chain and measures out who's belted longest shot. That fella at far end with white flag stands by each Knur so that ref measures in a straight line. They measure last yard or two with a tape measure.
And then when they found the Knur, sometimes you couldn't find it. If it were a good one, some opposition would not stamp on it, you know, so you wouldn't find it. You had to be careful. That sort of work went on with some of them, like there is in lots of games, you know. They're quite a decent crowd of people. There were some would have played cricket a bit, and one or two would have played golf a bit, and you know, hard working people.
One of the reasons the game failed to survive was the lack of skilled craftsmen able to produce the game's balls, as former player Jack Hickson explains.
It died because they couldn't get any Knurs. They tried with glass, what do you call them, glass alleys and things like that. They didn't break, but they didn't carry the weight that these carried. Now we tried all kinds of things to make a Knur, and nobody ever made one. I don't know where they were made or where they came from, but all the ones that we made, and we tried everything, they used to break in smithereens when they got a good clout. We could make the other things, no problem. We could make the sticks, we could make the heads, but we couldn't make the Knurs. Nowhere could we find a way of making the Knurs. Those that had a few, that had collected a few from old, they were like gold. They wouldn't give you them anything like that. And I should imagine they'll agree with me probably, that was one of the main things why it folded.